100% scholarship. Now, you've seen me say this countless number of times, seen it in the YouTube titles, and you've also seen students come on over for interviews in the videos talk about how they actually got fully funded 100% scholarships into their dream universities in the US, all without having to pay a dime. But the big question is this realistically possible? And if it is, how does it actually work? So in this video, I'm going to break this entire process down for you. How scholarships and financial aid work for US universities, whether you are a domestic student or an international student. And more importantly, the reason I'm doing this at this time is because CSS Profile, the entire application portal which is used to apply for financial aid, opens on October 1st each year. So now is the time to understand the whole process and make sure you apply correctly. Before we get started, let's clear the air between two terms, scholarships and financial aid. I know that even in my videos, I use these terms interchangeably, but if you go down to the technicality of both of these terms, they actually mean something different. Scholarships are merit-based, financial aid is more household income-based. Scholarships, on one hand, provide merit-based funding to students based on their academic caliber, which basically means if you are a student who's bright, who's doing well academically, maybe in high school, has good SAT scores, you've taken a ton of AP tests and you've been able to score really well, your chances of getting these merit-based scholarships increases. You can get maybe $20, $30, even $40,000 per year worth of merit scholarship based on your own capabilities and caliber. But the big catch here is that merit scholarships are often not enough to cover the entire tuition. For those of you that have done your entire research on US colleges, we know that the average tuition fee of a US college right now is anywhere upwards of $50,000. And that is where financial aid comes in. So financial aid, on the other hand, is dependent on your family's household income. Now, things such as how many people earn in your family, are those your parents, guardians, what is your household size, do you have any siblings, do you have siblings that are attending college? Basically, what is your household income and what are your household expenses? That is what is used to determine how much financial aid you get. I know that it's a little tricky, and technically financial aid really doesn't depend on the student itself, more the student's family and their ability to pay. And that is how this entire process is structured. Now, this CSS profile is to be filled out by domestic US citizens as well as international student. So no matter what type of student you are, if you want to apply for this need-based financial aid, CSS profile is the application you will be filling out. Now, the important thing to note here is this sort of financial aid funding doesn't come from a government body. It's from the college institution itself. So typically, private colleges tend to give a little bit more leverage and more funding, more financial aid when it comes to public universities. And the final nail in the coffin, I know that a lot of my graduate students are not going to like to hear this, is that I have seen extremely low, very, very few colleges offer need-based financial aid for master's programs. So this financial aid is mostly applicable if you are trying to come into the US for an undergraduate level degree. Let's talk about the application process both for scholarships and financial aid. Scholarships, it's very easy. In most cases, you don't even have to fill out an application. Your college application, oftentimes your Common App application that you're submitting to the college, is sufficient to be considered for merit-based scholarships. They will look at your application, they have everything they need in order to understand your capabilities as a student, and they will then disperse the scholarship along with your offer letter. In many cases, these merit-based scholarships are called presidential awards or presidential scholarships, and they have like a various amount that they disperse. So sometimes it could be $5,000, $10,000 per year or even more. On the other hand, when it comes to financial aid, we know that you have to fill out the CSS profile. And this is not free. The CSS profile costs $25 for the first college and then $16 for any additional college that you want to submit. The other tricky thing is that CSS profile deadlines are different than your college application deadlines. And if you think about it, it kind of gets a little tricky to handle and make sure you're paying attention to all of these things. Because, for example, if you're trying to apply to 10 colleges, you have to think about 10 college application deadlines and 10 CSS deadlines. And it's very easy to miss out on these. So the way that I like to organize this stuff is make sure that you fill out and submit your CSS profile along with your college application to make sure you're submitting both of them together. That way you don't forget either or. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see students make is that they don't correctly fill out both of these applications. Now, before you submit or even fill out the CSS profile, there is an important step you need to take on your common application, and that is in the college specific questions, there is a specific question that says, do you wish to be considered for need-based financial aid? You need to select yes to this question and then submit your CSS profile. Now, I've seen various cases where students select no there and then submit the CSS profile. In this case, your CSS profile will not even be considered because you selected no for the need-based financial aid. I've seen cases where students select no, they get admitted into this dream college and then they ask for need-based financial aid. In that situation, also you will not be considered. So it is very important that you click yes to that question and then subsequently submit your CSS profile to go along with your application. Now, there are some colleges that are need aware, which means that selecting yes to this financial aid request will impact their decision on whether they even admit you or not. Now, I've made a separate video altogether on need blind versus need aware colleges, so feel free to dive deeper there. But for now, note that if you want to apply for financial aid, it's better if you apply to need blind universities. That way, they don't consider your ability to pay while making their decision, and you're treated fairly among all pool of candidates. So all of this is great, but the big question that comes to all of our minds is 100% scholarship or financial aid actually achievable for most students? And while this is a very big question and it really depends on your ability as a student to perform well academically, it is honestly possible. A lot of colleges, including top 20 Ivy League colleges, have stated this on their website, and even lower tier colleges such as Knox College, Denison College have clearly stated that they will meet 100% demonstrated need for international as well as domestic students, and that all students are eligible to apply for merit-based scholarships. So the way that these 100% scholarships work is that you don't get one or the other. The entire 100% is a combination of both. And the important thing to note here is that every time you move on to your next year in college, both of these types of scholarship and aid have to be renewed, and it depends on various factors. If you have a merit-based scholarship, you need to make sure you consistently perform well academically to ensure that you continue to get that scholarship. And for the need-based financial aid, your household income and finances need to more or less stay the same in order for you to qualify. Now, these things changing can definitely impact your aid. Now, we've seen that there are so many moving pieces to this entire financial aid process, and it's easy to miss out or do something incorrectly. This entire process can be super overwhelming, and even a small misstep can cost you thousands of dollars in potential financial aid. So if you guys need even a little bit of assistance, I would highly recommend checking out the Ivy League 101 course, which has a dedicated CSS profile walkthrough. It's like a 30-40 minute walkthrough of what and how you need to fill out each section so that you can have like some guidance when you're doing this entire process. In addition to the CSS profile, there are other chapters including shortlisting colleges, Common App walkthrough, essays, activities, resume even, and a lot of free templates. So this entire course has all of this material in one place, your own student dashboard in an organized fashion, so that you have some guidance throughout the college application process. The link to the course is going to be in the description below. Definitely check it out. Now, if you are watching this video, especially till this point, I am assuming that you are a smart student. You know that you need to apply for financial aid, and because you're following everything to the right detail, I know that you are not going to miss out on any steps. So up until now, we've understood that applying for financial aid is important. Now let's get into the details of how you actually do it and what's required. Now, after you fill out the CSS profile, there is a next step of something called IDoc packet or application, where you have to submit supporting documents. These supporting documents are proof of whatever you mention in the CSS profile. One of the biggest supporting documents that they ask for are tax return. You will need to submit tax returns for one or both of your parents if they are both working for the last 2 years, not 2 years ago, previous 2 years, and that is because that is the last completed financial year. Now, I know I get a lot of questions with students asking, what if my parents don't have a tax return? What if they have a business and it's not like a generic tax return that everybody else has? All of these situations are accounted for in the CSS profile. They give you opportunities to explain your family situation. Why didn't you file a tax return? If you have a business, there's a separate part where you can add in all of that profit and loss stuff. If you have a chartered accountant who's kind of taking care of all of these paperwork for you, for your parents, they will know how to do this. The biggest caveat here is that this CSS profile, especially when it comes to this tax return stuff, should be filled out with your parents, because a lot of the information that they're asking isn't something that I'm guessing a teenage student discusses every night on a dinner room table. I know that when I was 17, 18, or even 19 years old, I did not have discussions with my parents on what their tax return filing was for the last 2 years. So it's okay that you don't know, you're not expected to, but please make sure that your parents are actively involved in this process. Now, in addition to the parents, the student's financial income is also required. For most international students, or majority of you, you may not be working, you do not have jobs, so it's very straightforward. You would fill out 0. If you do have jobs or you work somewhere, then you move on to, again, attach your bank statements and your tax returns. Talking about bank statements, that is the next thing that you need to do. Sometimes they ask for proof of funds, and they may request for a year's worth of bank statements from you or your parents. This could be to check finances, to check deposit amounts, to make sure that you're not lying. It could also be to double check your savings. So it could be for a variety of reasons. Next up, we have investments, assets, and real estate. This is an important part, and basically where all of the information about what type of property your parents own and what assets they have go in. This requires a lot of details. Again, make sure your parents are involved in this process and you are being very ethical throughout these statements as well. We do not want to lie on this application, as it can really be negatively impactful on your entire application, not just CSS, but even the college application. Now, with these basic questions out of the way, CSS profile also has supplemental questions depending on what college you add in. Some of the really absurd supplemental questions I've seen is sometimes they want to know what car your parents drive, the make, the model, and the year that it was purchased in. I know this sounds really, really weird and very personal, but Harvard University actually asks this. So these are some of the types of supplemental questions that you can expect. They aren't too lengthy, but there is a tab. So when you add universities to your CSS dashboard, these supplemental questions will start adding up. And that's about it. So with this information, I think you guys are in a good spot to apply for the CSS profile, with the only hurdle that you take the Ivy League 101 course and make sure you do the step-by-step walkthrough to ensure that you're not making any mistakes while filling this out. Something I would like to mention here as like a bonus tip or piece of information would be that, like I mentioned earlier, the CSS profile is not government funding, it is private endowments and funds from the college itself. So the amount of funding that you get through submitting the CSS could be different. And what that looks like is, after submitting the CSS profile, College A may decide to give you $10,000 per year of financial aid, while College B may decide to give you $40,000 per year of financial aid. So it can differ, and who makes this call? That would be the college admission and financial aid office. They look at various things such as the student's ability, academic aptitude, as well as the parents' demonstrated need. You cannot argue back and forth with them. The amount that they disperse is something that will be mentioned in your offer letter when you finally get the decision. And needless to say, you only get the financial aid if you actually get accepted. If you get rejected, they will not offer you any aid. The second warning I want to leave you guys with is that please be ethical on your entire application, whether it's the financial aid application, scholarship, or even your college applications. Lying will just not be tolerated. Recently, a few weeks ago, there was some news about a student at Lehigh University, an international student who ended up facing deportation because he had lied all throughout his financial aid applications, his scholarship applications, and he did get caught. And this isn't just the only case. There have been so many reported cases just like that. So making sure that you are truthful in your CSS profile is the #1 key to this entire process. Warning number 3 is that the financial aid that you are promised or given is only for 1 year. So you need to make sure that whatever scholarship or financial aid is given, to ensure that you get that throughout your degree. If it's a 4-year degree, you need to continue to be a good student, which means getting good grades, filling out and submitting forms on time, and making sure you are actively involved in what you need to do. So ensure that you do not sleep on this after you get admitted into your first year, because it can end up costing you thousands of dollars. The last part of this video, and this is somewhat of a small giveaway for those of you watching till this very point, is that the team at Incognito Blueprints has been kind enough to offer some free consultations to students since we are right in the middle of this financial aid application season. The CSS profile has opened up, so there's going to be a link to a sign-up form in the description below. All you have to do is fill out the form, and 3 to 5 students will be picked where they get a one-on-one free consultation with me. You guys have the ability to talk over a Zoom call with me, ask your questions. It'll be for about 15 or 20 minutes, but it is a great place to just ask all of your doubts, clear them up, and it's a great opportunity. Doesn't cost anything. So go ahead and fill that form out. It's going to be in the description below. And yes, I did not forget our random question of the day. Our question today is, who is your favorite sports player? Now, I have a couple. Growing up, I was a huge tennis fan, so Roger Federer was someone who I really looked up to. I also enjoyed playing basketball. Steph Curry is my favorite player as of today. And those are kind of like the 2 sports that I personally watch. So I would like to know who your favorite player is. And just to make this interesting and make sure people understand, make sure you add in what sport and then the player's name in the comments below. This is going to be a fun one. I can't wait to read all of the different players that you either admire, consider GOATs, or just frankly look up to, or just are fans of. But if you're watching till this point, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.